Mine.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Thank you. This is the Sustainability Advisory Board on Monday, July 7th. We're glad to see so many people here that are eager to share. Emma, could you please call the roll?
Margie Davy,
I'm here.
Lisa Moore, Jacob Claymeyer, Alyssa Renke,
Here.
Vic Oliver,
Here.
Jaden Zern,
Here.
Brad Spanbauer,
Here.
Amy Schuler,
Here.
Paul Trader,
Here.
7 present, we have quorum.
Thank you. Amy,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Amy Schuler, and this is my first time serving on a city board, so I'm anxious to see how it all works. I graduated with a master's in sustainable management from the UW system last May. Haven't secured an employment position yet, so I'm still doing my old job in media. And I'm looking forward to getting back into the sustainability and furthering my learnings and what I did in my master's. So thank you for welcoming me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Okay, approval of minutes from the June 2nd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving as written, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. I don't know what we'd do if somebody said yes to that. I don't know. Sustainable activities and events. Because Jake is not here tonight, we won't have his usual report. He wasn't feeling real well. But if anybody else has anything they'd like to share that's coming up in the next month, you're welcome to now. Well, we're all putting on our thinking caps going, what's 1 month from now? Okay, I've got nothing either. I'm sure there's lots of good stuff, but we just don't know what it is right now. Okay, and with that, I would like to turn this meeting over to the UWO Harmful Algal Blooms Project team. I don't know if you have a primary speaker or if you're all going to be sharing, but however you plan to do this, if you would please approach the mic at the podium as you're speaking, that's helpful because people at home won't hear you otherwise. And I'll scoot out of the way so everybody can see the board. Take it away. You do know we've only allowed 2 hours for this, right?
Thank goodness.
Hi everyone, we're with UWO. We're working on the Harmful Algal Blooms project. We just want to say we really appreciate the time you guys have squeezed in for us for your meeting today. We really appreciate that opportunity.
So we're going to start off today with just a quick introduction of who's here to represent the project. I'll start. My name's Will. I'm a member of the ethnographic and community engagement tracks of the project this summer.
I'm Amelia. I'm working with the community development team as well.
Microphone, please. Microphone.
I'm Matt Krishke, and I'm also working with the community as well.
I'm Stephanie Spehar. I am the project lead, and I'm also a professor at UW Oshkosh.
I'm Brady Pomplin. I'm a member of the geospatial team for the project.
My name is Thina Dito, and I'm on the ethnographic team.
And I'm Desmond Odongo, also on the ethnographic team.
And I'm Heidi Nichols. I'm an anthropologist and the head of the ethnographic team.
So that was just a quick introduction of who's representing us here today. We're also going to talk about who we are as a whole, more generally. What is the project? What are the components of the project? Who's doing work where on the project? Since it's the topic of our project, we're also going to be talking about harmful algal blooms very briefly. And we're also going to be talking about what exactly we're working on. So what's going on currently with the project? What have we accomplished? What are some of our goals for the future? And finally, we're going to be talking about some ways that we can collaborate with you all, because we get chances very often to basically give our spiel, what are harmful algal blooms, what is our project, but we don't often get chances to meet with people who have a chance to do actionable, real actionable work. So we're hoping to create and foster channels of collaboration with you all. So that all starts with the Lake Winnebago system. As you can see on the picture on the right, the Lake Winnebago system is huge. The watershed is even bigger, and so because of that, there are over 200,000 people in the area that get their drinking water from this area. Additionally, it's estimated that between $230 and $240 million are injected into the local economy from fishing alone every year. So there's a big economic incentive to having this lake and a big economic benefit from having this lake system around us. Additionally, there is a cultural impact, cultural component of the lake. Thousands and thousands of people will use it recreationally, so boating, fishing, water sports, swimming, even just observation. Those are all very common uses of the lake. But ecologically, economically, culturally, all those uses of the lake can be disrupted by harmful algal blooms, unfortunately.
So what are harmful algal blooms? They are cyanobacteria that are caused by excess nutrients in the water. This is enhanced by the warm temperatures in the shallow lake. The runoff from all around the lake collects and then it feeds that cyanobacteria. It can be toxic to people and pets and wildlife. It produces a cyanotoxin that is dangerous for us, and the toxicity can build up over time, getting worse. This is not a new problem, but it is a problem that is getting worse. And it has been a problem at least since the 1940s from the research that we've done, but I've also heard that Green Bay has been named after these blooms. So it may go back quite a ways.
So why does our project matter? Obviously, we understand that algal blooms are affecting the environment and the ecosystem in Lake Winnebago, but it's also affecting the overall community. So when the lake is green and stinky, people are not going to want to boat, they're not going to want to fish, and they're not going to want to swim. And that's affecting our economy as well, because 4,300 jobs come from fishing alone just in the Winnebago area. HABs are also a public health threat, and there is not a lot of general education being done even to the locals. There's lots of people that I've talked to that don't understand what HABs are. They especially don't know them by their name or that they're a bacteria and what's causing them or how to fix them. There's also no consistent public monitoring or warning systems for HABs. With that being said, that kind of leaves local health departments to have to figure out what they can do about the situation, how to approach the situation, when they don't have the resources or knowledge to do so. Additionally, there is a large cultural and ecological importance of our lake, and it's important to the community that our lake continues to be healthy.
So what I'm going to do now is just tell you a little bit about the project overall, and I'll try to do this really quickly so we can move on to the discussion. So what makes our project unique is that it's taking an interdisciplinary approach to this problem. So there are a lot of projects that study harmful algal blooms, and they usually do it from a biological or ecological standpoint. And what our project is doing is really recognizing that yes, HABs are a biological problem, but really at their root they are a human problem. They are a problem that's related to policy and regulation, to history, the history of this region, to economic factors, and to sociocultural factors, so people's perceptions and understandings of not just the blooms but the lakes themselves. So our project is really focused on trying to study all these different aspects of this problem and bring them together in a holistic way. We have a 4-year project. Started in 2022, we're kind of at the midpoint now. We're funded by the National Science Foundation, so we got a pretty big grant to do this project. And our project involves many researchers from all sorts of different disciplines, from anthropology, from biology, from environmental studies, from engineering, from chemistry, from history, all sorts of different disciplines, and we involve a lot of students in our project. So everybody here except for me and Dr. Nichols are students, and so our project employs anywhere between 10 to 15 UW-Oshkosh students each year to get this experience doing interdisciplinary research and to help with this problem. Another thing I'll say on this slide is we have a lot of partners that are really important. So an important partner on this project is a Norwegian university that's part of it, that's NTNU, but then I really want to point out our community partner, which is the Fox-Wolf Watershed Alliance, and I know we have Alyssa here who's representing that organization, but they're a really important partner for us because one of our goals with this project is really to have an impact on this problem in our region, and we understand that having partnerships in the community is a crucial part of that. So they're a really key partner in helping us to do that public outreach and education and communication and to really figure out how to implement our findings. Okay, next slide. So this just gives you a broad sense of our overall project goals. Like I said, we're trying to study this problem from a holistic perspective and bring together all these different kinds of information in a new way. We're also trying to facilitate dialogue among researchers from different backgrounds, but also between researchers and the public. And we're doing this in different ways, workshops, writing exercises, really thinking not just about HABs, but about sustainability broadly in this system. And then we're really also trying to communicate our information effectively. So you can see up there inform and engage. So we have a lot of stuff we're doing to try to really communicate our findings, and this is everything from some of the stuff the community engagement team is going to be telling you about to some bigger outcomes we're hoping to have near the end of the project, like a traveling pop-up exhibit that brings together our findings. And then engage up there. You can see that we have some different ways we're trying to engage. Like I mentioned, we have a community partner, but we're also trying to engage with other possible partners in our region. We're developing a citizen science app that hopefully will engage the public in monitoring these blooms, and we're doing other activities as well. Next slide. And I'm going to not go through this whole slide, but this is just to give you a sense of all the different teams we have on our project that are working to study and understand these different aspects of this problem. So you can look up there, you can see all the different teams, and you'll be hearing from a couple of these teams, not all of them, but a couple of them today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our ethnographic lead, Dr. Nichols.
Thank you. So I'm an anthropologist, and I'm trying to understand why people do what they do. And part of that, in this case, is trying to understand how do people perceive these blooms. We have a lot of biological data and chemical data that is letting us know about toxins and problems and like how they're created and where they're coming from. But if we're going to talk about how to do something about it that's actually situated in place or policy, we need to understand what our community is thinking about this. So I've been getting to work with a pretty large team of students over the now this is our third year of data collection, where we're trying to kind of collect what do people think, what do people want done, who do they think should be doing it, et cetera. You can go ahead and put up the accomplishment. I appreciate it. I'm the one who tried to make it appear, and well, it didn't make sense now. You can kind of see I broke down the methods over on the right-hand side. So we've been doing these, what initially started as kind of quick in-person surveys, walking up to people in the parks, which I now call long surveys because the students were so good at it that these were no longer 2-3 minute conversations. They were ranging anywhere from 7 to, I think our longest was around an hour. So they're amazing. They've been able to get people to talk about it, and we have had a range of responses. We're now in the summer of working on semi-structured interviews, and we're working with community at large, meaning they kind of fall into this bracket that's not either lakefront or waterfront, homeowners or renters. That's a different group we're interviewing. We just got clearance with different farm groups, so we're going to be interviewing farmers. I'm working right now with the Menominee Nation, and I've been talking with Brothertown Nation, And we're also now working with policymakers and decision makers and or what we're a new category we're calling community water connected workers. So people who maybe work on the water but aren't necessarily in like the policy working space. As well as we have a survey that's ready to launch that can go out to anybody and everybody. We already have 350 plus short interviews, hence it was time to start moving into these kind of more intentional, filling in the gaps of our story, semi-structured. Lots of surveys, themes have been coming from there. What we do know, while people maybe don't know the term harmful algal bloom or HABs, by the time we work through cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, showing pictures of the algae or saying it looks like spilled paint or grass clippings, we have about 91% of people actually know what that is. They just don't know it by name. People want something to happen. There's very much a feeling of, I don't know if I can do it, who should be doing it, can I affect change? So one of the things we're looking at with community engagement is how can people feel immediately, I can go home and do this? How can I feel empowered? A lot of conversations of, I don't know, maybe it should be DNR, maybe it's our government, maybe it's Wisconsin, maybe it's the nation. So there's a lot of very different perspectives on who should be responsible for doing something about that. Lots of offshoot research. But then now, like I said, this summer we're working on these like semi-structured interviews, and then we'll be doing focus groups. I'm going to be gone for a little portion, and when I come back, working on intentional focus groups. Like you all would be a really amazing focus group, just as a side note. Just to try to find out what are people, and when you have that focus group, kind of impromptu conversation emerges, and I think that would be really, really helpful. I'm working on some white papers, meaning papers that we would be giving people immediately rather than waiting for a publication, as in, here's what constituents in this space are saying, because we're working across the whole watershed. So we have Oshkosh, we also have Neenah and Menasha. I mentioned about like up at Kashina, the Menominee Nation. So I'd like to be able to give people immediate reports. Been working on the citizen science app. We just got that submitted to the IRB, and our long-term goal would be not having to rely on the university to access that data, but continuously have that data available to people who are making decisions. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing on my end. I put a little email up there for HAB interviews in case you'd be interested. And like I said, we're also doing focus groups. And then we're going to be giving that information to our community engagement team as well as other stakeholders. So I turn it to you guys.
Okay, hi, I'm Matt. I'm with the community outreach team. I'm going to go over a couple of the goals that we've got with our team. So we've been reaching out to educate the community on the harmful algae blooms, spread awareness and inspire action so that people know what is dangerous and what to stay away from. We've been working on getting a lot of new events set up with the community, and I will let you go into that.
So what have we accomplished so far concretely? Well, primarily over the past 2 years, as the community outreach team, we have established numerous outreach events, which can be anything from a summer camp to a spot at the county fair to even the Menominee Zoo or anything in between, where we set up and educate the public about harmful algal blooms and about our project. We also, or I should say also, we've reached a couple thousand people already just over the last summer and a half or so. So we've been quite prolific. We also have established several lesson plans and educational activities. These are meant to be something that can exist after the project has run its course. So we want K through 12 educators or anyone else who might have a use for them to be able to use pre-made educational plans to teach people about harmful algal blooms and what causes them, their dangers, etc. And we've also established some relationships with various organizations, and we hope to keep that going.
Currently, we're working on a radio PSA that we can send out to several community radios, just to continue to spread the word about harmful algae blooms and the health effects that they have on the public. We are continuing to create lesson plans and educational fun activities for all ages that makes learning about algae blooms a little bit more age comprehensive. Just this summer alone, we've had over 25 educational events scheduled, and we're going to continue doing outreach for partnerships. So today we're reaching out to you guys to maybe do some collaboration, and we've also been reaching out to museums in the area and other organizations. We really appreciate the time that you guys have given us today. We'd like to move into some discussion, kind of what you guys want to see from our project, how we can help you achieve your goals, and then just a general Q&A and feedback. I have some prompts up there if you guys need some help generating some questions, but we're really here to figure out how we can collaborate with you guys and work together to better the community and fight algal blooms.
Thank you.
Wow. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? From the board, I mean. Okay, don't all jump at once. There's some prompts up here behind me. I'll just call on people then. Brad.
Well, I don't feel like I should go because I know all these people. No, I think this is a really great project, and thank you all for feel free to sit down for presenting on it. I think the point about water quality being a key economic aspect of this region is really important. Now, certainly, like, we all need clean water to drink, and we want clean water to recreate on and that kind of thing. I think sometimes we find that those things might sort of feel like they're at odds. But so I think this project, as I understand it, right, you're kind of trying to find ways to understand how all those pieces kind of touch and overlap with each other. And I think clearly the feedback that you're getting from folks is that people do care. They more or less know and recognize what they are. I think that next piece is action, right? So like, what are the next steps? It sounds like the app is in development. Now, is that going to be an app that's going to be for like reporting blooms?
Actually, if you guys are going to be responding to questions, if you'd like to take some seats at the table where the microphones are, that would probably be easier for
Come on, humans.
You don't
Come,
have
come.
to run back and forth.
Yeah.
We don't bite.
So it'll be a reporting app in real time, so people can upload photos. I'm out boating, I'm out fishing, I see something, and then they can upload the picture. And then also describe it. There's a couple descriptive, non-forced questions, so people could skip through it in their timing. What's really cool about it, from a conference that we were just at, which an entire conference on harmful algal blooms, didn't know such a thing existed, but the DNR was talking about their reporting system. And so we're kind of looking for ways with Foxwolf Watershed and this app to also kind of link that directly back with the DNR rather than having so many reporting streams but not in one collective space. So that part's really exciting.
So when the app is developed and I'm out on my boat and I take a picture and that picture goes off, where does that, like, who is that going to? Who is reviewing those pictures and those data?
Well, currently, I'm looking at stuff just in case I get this wrong, but currently it's housed through the ArcGIS program, which UWO has one of the few licensed humans to run that app. Okay. But we're working with Foxwolf Watershed where they would also have access to that kind of repository of photos and also responses in addition to us, and where ideally we'd also be moving that in where Wisconsin DNR would also have access to that information. So it could be kind of multi-observed and monitored rather than what we don't want is it to become UWO is controlling it, and then people are solely relying on us to get that. And working in academia, things can be very slow, versus Foxwolf Watershed can immediately get out there and do something.
You are speaking to the city here, Heidi. We understand.
I was owning our bureaucracy over here, but ideally, this would be something that multiple people would be able to have access to and be able to collect that information and get that information out.
One thing I'll add about that is I think ideally what we'll have is essentially a website where that will be updated in real time with people's submissions. So that way, folks who are out there wanting to use the lake can see sort of what conditions are like, right? And perhaps this can grow into some sort of broader monitoring system. I mean, one of the challenges that we mentioned is that there really is no comprehensive public monitoring system for HABs. And so we're hoping that this app can sort of help to address at least part of that. And that's the vision anyway. So.
And the app is built. It's just now going through, anyone who's worked with me knows I'm an IRB stickler. So it's just going through that IRB and then it should be ready to launch.
Can you define IRB?
I'm sorry,
please?
Institutional Review Board.
Thank you.
So anytime we're collecting anything that's ethnographic, that it's humans responding, just like to have that additional ethical layer. But that part's we're identified as a minimal, what is the word I'm looking for?
Impact?
Minimal risk, yeah.
Minimal risk.
So it should go through pretty quickly. I shouldn't shit on things.
Paul?
Okay. I don't know if anybody else on the board. Amy, are you a healthcare provider? No. So I think I'm the only healthcare provider on this board, 40 years. And this is the first time I've had a presentation like this, and I've gone to infectious disease conferences, wilderness medicine. And sure, we mention cyanobacteria once in a while, but never to this extent. And I've lived in Oshkosh 27 years, and I see the blooms, but I didn't realize some of the risks that the public could have. So one thing you could do is dive a little deeper, at an 8th grade level, how the toxins can affect humans and animals, especially their pets. Okay. What kind of exposure? And I'm sure diving in isn't any good. Is there other risks, other exposures that could put people at risk from this bacteria? How to minimize? Is there how sick are they going to get? And I'm sure some of it has to do with level of exposure, how much is in there. And I also think it makes great sense that you would partner with Public Health Department to work on this project and make the public aware.
Yes.
I think I really appreciate that you did this.
And I got to give the community engagement team the credit. They're the ones who did the reaching out and pulling this together. We are working with, and I'm currently getting ready to interview, and we have some with the public health departments, both in Winnebago, Outagamie. There's another county we have right now, Brown, that we're going to be interviewing to talk about like what is working, what's not working, and then I can't remember if you pronounce her last name, Amanda Koch, who's in public health for Wisconsin. She was talking a lot about what resources we could start looking at as far as like communicating and talking about exposure.
The city of Oshkosh is unique in that we don't have our own health department anymore. It's part of Winnebago County, which is different than it was, but Menasha also has a separate health. I don't know if you know that, but I think they're in the same watershed. But I was sitting here thinking how many different health departments this watershed must cover and how difficult that might be. I hope you're going to be able to create something for them at some point so they can all have, I get a monthly mailing from the email from the health department because I asked to be put on the list, and it often gives you information like this, but it's, like all pretty, like your little boxes up here, so that makes it easier to share for them, I'm thinking. And you are obviously working with departments on that and along those lines, right?
Yes, we're trying to learn from them what right now we're in the learning stage. What's working, what's not working, what do you want? And then ideally packaging to, because they already have like these templates, right, of like how to get information out, to have the kind of collected ethnographic data to say, here's what people are saying, what can we deliver right back to you? That would actually be meaningful versus us saying, here's this thing we have for you, oh, that didn't work for you, sorry, that's what we gave you.
And I think that's one thing that makes our project unique, is because we have this 4-year time span, and because it's a project where one of our goals is to study, we have the opportunity to learn, like Heidi is saying, right? We can go and learn from public health departments or from like people such as yourselves, like what are your needs, what are you seeing, what is working, what isn't, and then we can hopefully use that information to help design better solutions. So I think, that's one of our purposes here today.
Jaden?
So I have a question. It came up a couple times, and it's even up there. How can we collaborate with you? So my question to you is, and I'm going to address this to Stephanie, but this is towards everyone, is what do you hope for out of this conversation? What does best case scenario look like out of this conversation today?
Well, I will start, but then I'll open it up to the other members of our team who are here. I guess I would say, honestly, the outcome I'm hoping for today is just learning from all of you. Like, I don't think that right now, it's like, oh, we got to come up with some great plan immediately. I think more just opening a conversation and creating a channel of communication so we do have the opportunity to learn from you all who are active at the level of the city, what you might need, what works, what your concerns are. Go ahead.
So as part of the learning, one of the interviews was with the policymaker, and they let me know that actually harmful algal blooms aren't mentioned in the Beach Act, which regulates water quality across the state and federally. So it's all about E. coli, but because they can close any waterway for any reason, they added HABs as one of the reasons why. So from a policy perspective, along those lines, I also mentioned the fact that beaches are tested based on frequency, and that's determined by your tier. So they gave Milwaukee as an example. Milwaukee's a tier 1, so they're tested daily and frequently. They can have buoys out there to measure temperature on a semi-permanent basis and things of that nature. But Brown County or Green Bay is a tier 2, so they test once a week. So for example, that one of the risks was they're not getting enough resources. It was a 2-person team. So I'm curious to learn, where do we rank in Oshkosh, the beaches around us, and where does that put us? Are there resources left on the table that maybe we can get 1 or 2 people to also begin looking into something like that?
Does anybody here know if we test, like I would know how to do that, if Winnebago is tested by the university or by watershed, or how do we get data?
It was the public health, so if Winnebago County is responsible for that, that'd probably be where I'd start looking.
Okay, and they don't contract that out as far as you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but my guess would be, wherever the beaches are, whatever county the beaches are in, would be possibly responsible. And Winnebago, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Lake Winnebago doesn't actually have that many beaches, right? It doesn't have that many. So, yeah, so my guess is the counties do it, and then maybe, like you said, they might contract it out to like the ERIC lab at UW Oshkosh or something like that.
I would also say it depends on what you're monitoring for in the water, because like the Army Corps of Engineers has continuous monitoring in some of our system for specific data, and then like Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance also does like stream and in-lake water quality monitoring for specific things, so it just depends on what you're looking for.
So are you going to be looking to change policy?
I would hope so.
Well, that's one part of it. So there's this other branch where there was another grad student who had worked on looking at what policies are in place, have been in place, and she kind of has her own report on that part of it to be able to give information about how could we change policy, which is kind of circles back to the goal. I have a selfish goal selfish in the project sense of, I'm hoping that we can use this as a kind of platform of both like accessing more humans and talking to you all to find out, for example, I mean, here's this committee that's looking at things about our environment and sustainability. What obstacles do you all see? What are things that have been really great successes? What are ways that we could be of help? We're going to have so much data. I mean, I already have 350 interviews and more are coming that's just the last 2 summers. So what do we do with this data that can be done and used in a really meaningful way? So in turn for me, it's that like them brokering that first conversation to find out from you all what's working, what's not working, what could we do, what could we produce, what could we give you? Is it short term? We maybe could like give you all papers with certain data. When I say papers, I don't necessarily mean like, academic, but like, do you want single quick fact sheets? Is it something that you all want continuous, every 6-month report that's coming back? Are you really wanting to know, going back to what you're talking about with the economy and recreation? I mean, there's some humans that are saying, I'm getting in that water no matter what, right? There's like a badge of honor on that. And then there's people who are saying, well, I heard really bad stories. When it's septic, I don't want to get in it. And so you have these kind of 2 extremes. But I would say people in that middle are saying, I want signage. I want to know, is it safe for me to go in the water? How do I know when to stay out of it? And there's very much a trust in what we're hearing is from, I would say government, but that can just be such a giant word. But I want somebody to put a sign on the beach that says, don't go in the water, because then I know I shouldn't go in the water. But if I don't see that sign, then I probably can go in the water. Or can we have a monitoring system or an app that says, like, don't go in the water today. It's not just about E. coli. It's about the blooms are really bad. This could be potentially toxic. So what it is that you all would want to come out of Oshkosh, what does that look like? One of our main places of talking to people is Menominee Park. And how many people are in there swimming, and we've seen them swim in all types of water. But then you also meet people who are like, I'm never going in that water, ever. So, yeah.
So instead of sharks, we have blue-green algae.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
New slogan.
Yeah. Brad?
This Heidi touched on exactly what I was going to ask next, which is having seen previous presentations of yours and looking at data where people are like, yes, I'm going to go in no matter what. Some people are like, no, I'm never going in. I think to the degree that you all can help communities in the watershed kind of point really specifically to like when to not go in the water and make that as uniform as possible, I think is a really good approach. Right now, obviously, the water bodies within the watershed and some of that stuff is going to vary slightly, but I think to the degree that you can apply some sort of like, here's what to do when and here's what not to do when, is a good approach. My other question, I think, is more about as you all continue to parse through your data, and maybe you're going to get to this and maybe you're not, but kind of getting to the root cause of the harmful algal blooms and getting people to know or understand, like, how do they impact that part of the system, right? Or can they? Mm-hmm. I guess is that, is it don't put fertilizer down on your lawn at home, or is it, advocate for sustainable agriculture practices, or is it, right? Like, what are the different things? And I guess what do you all see as initial pathways? Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, what are the initial pathways to when people say, because I heard you say people want to do something, they want to help. What are those things? And maybe you're not ready to answer that question.
I'm not ready. No, I would say one part is like much of the information the community engagement team is already given. They have some flyers that they'll give, quick talking points about the importance of wild plants or indigenous plants, and about what do you do with your fertilizer. Should you be using fertilizer? What do you do with your grass clippings? I know Katie Reed has talked a lot about that from Fox Wolf Watershed, about grass clippings going right into the drain and then going out. on the ethnographic side, what we're running into is people are pretty certain humans are the reason for this, right? There's the humans who say like, well, this is just natural, which to some degree is true. But, and people are able to say nitrates and phosphates. But then there becomes this really tricky, blurry line of it's the lakefront homeowners and what they're doing. It's the farmers, it's what they're doing. And so when thinking about moving forward in policy, how to build a bridge in that conversation rather than it being this like divisive, when we're writing language about what can we do, I think it needs to be really inclusive language so it doesn't come off as farmers stop using fertilizers, right? And you're also like, well, I have to feed my family and I have to have crops, right? There's very real decisions that are going into what fertilizers you're using. You have homeowners who are saying, well, some people want the lake, the waterfront to look like a pool and get into that pool. And then you have people who want wild plants. And so how, I think when we're thinking about it, it has to come from a bridge building and a non-blaming while also educating and community building rather than dividing. And then I walk by, well, you don't have the indigenous plants, so you're the problem, right? And then that can become kind of the opposite of that community Oshkosh feeling. So just something for us to keep in mind when looking at what are the quick things we can do. Yeah, I don't know if I fully answered that, but.
Well, I was just going to add, like, just a thought I have in speaking to all of you here. Like, you all are folks who are trying to understand Oshkosh and are trying to think about how to make Oshkosh more sustainable, right? And, like, our project is thinking about that from the angle of harmful algal blooms. And to me, like, you all can offer us such insights on what are some of the challenges and barriers to doing this kind of work in this place, right? But also, what are some of the opportunities? And that's something that I think can really benefit our project as we try to think about this specific issue, harmful algal blooms. Because the thing is, right, like the basic mechanisms of what causes these blooms are pretty well understood. We know it's like nutrient inputs and warm, shallow waters. But the fact that we understand that hasn't allowed us to stop them, right? They are still happening. And that's that human side of it that this project is really about, is like, okay, there's all these other components that are creating this unsustainable situation. So we're trying to understand those better, and folks like you are a crucial part of that. Because it isn't just about those sort of, not to say that the biology and ecology aren't important, they're very important, and we have a whole team that's working on that, and there are things left to understand there. I just want to be very clear. But I mean, a big part of the problem are in these sociocultural, economic policy areas that are quite complicated to address.
I would like to add that your spokespeople, whoever is sharing this information, should look like the audience that they're trying to reach. Otherwise, just from my experience in healthcare, I see now's another darn thing they're going to have us worrying about, this, that, and another thing. There's a lot of pushback lately against science in general, and government as well. So I'd like to see all these kids here, that's great, and their engagement, but I think it's very important that whoever is sharing this information it really does need to be people who, if there's something, it's a different way of raising crops or doing your lawn or whatever, people who have incorporated these changes to minimize the stuff they're putting into the watershed to feed the algae, and the success that they're having, so that people can relate to that. So I think that's a crucial part of selling your concept.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, even just something we're learning out in the field is there's pushback on government, there's pushback, but there's also pushback on higher education in the sense of, the academics are here to tell us what to do. And part of why I personally, obviously, always think the ethnographic is really important, but the importance of us learning and listening rather than coming in to declare And because there has been some of those initial responses. I'm looking at, Desmond worked on this project also last summer and again, but some of that initial response can be, oh, okay, what are you about to tell us? Versus, no, I really want to know what you think.
Right. And even as we're engaging, they answer, but they're looking to us like, did I get it right? There is no right or wrong, so we can certainly get that feel of the academic sense of it. So.
Your point's very well taken.
Yes. Thank you.
It does seem that you're very aware of socioeconomic factors throughout the area and are being sensitive to that, which is great. I think that's very important.
I think additionally, we do have like little handouts, and we tell people like, because they're always like, well, what can I do as an individual? And we kind of tell them like, you can grow native plants or use crop covers, but like they don't have the funds for that. They don't have the resources for that. So we're really trying to reach out to organizations to figure out like, how can we bring those resources to them? Where can we send people? What websites can we send to people to find resources, to find grants, to find where they can get these native plant seeds? Just that sort of thing.
Are you planning on giving presentations to the local Rotaries and Kiwanis clubs? And
I just got contacted by a Rotary. It's ironic that you say that. I didn't realize that there was like a want in that space, and this gentleman that we met up at that conference said, can you come talk to our Rotary Club about this? And that conversation could turn into, a learning to find out what are humans thinking. So for me, that's a new thought.
Well, and often those organizations also have funding available for projects. Okay. So it might really behoove you to be able to share with them if there are, needs like that. I'm also curious if you've been working at all with Discover Oshkosh, which is really the Convention and Tourism Bureau.
It never even crossed my mind.
I
think you just blew all of our minds in here.
I was thinking they would have one.
And it seems right there.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about the app? Are you envisioning it more of a data collection or a warning system? So if I'm out on my boat and I can look and say, oh, that looks gross, and I'm not getting there. And will there be a response to, okay, that's safe, that's not actual an HAV, that's okay to swim in? Like, is it a two-way thing?
I got sad there. Because, it's such a great question. I mean, I think it is a little bit of both, because my understanding, and I'm going to look over at Brady, who's on the geospatial team. It's the geospatial team who created they're actually using this app from ArcGIS. This one is coming from Field Maps?
Yep.
Okay, I had to pause and make sure I had the right app here. But if I understand it correctly, this is something that people could see, like, oh, they reported that there's a bloom over here. I'm not going to go over here, for example, for fishing or swimming, right? They'd be able to see that in real time, if I'm understanding that correctly.
The use of a dashboard.
Yeah.
Like real-time feed, and it feeds it into the system, and then it uploads it so that people can see it right away.
Right.
And that
Can you repeat what he said, please?
Oh, okay. Suddenly Des?
So, it will be sort of a citizen science. If everyone's uploading it into the system, and then it gets uploaded to a dashboard, which is then visible to anyone else who accesses the application. And to add on to that, from engaging with the public, a common theme that came up was, when I know that it's bad in Little Butimore, I'll drive up to Fox Crossing, or so that lines up perfectly with giving them a sort of the most up-to-date information. Oshkosh isn't good today, I'll drive up here, or so on and so forth.
Instead of the weather report, they're getting the water report. For
So I'm pulling up the radar in the morning, and then I'm also pulling up the radar of the lake.
For the lake, right.
Correct. I like that.
And one thing I'll just say, you asked a really good question, which is whether there can be some sort of feedback about whether it's dangerous or not. And that's kind of I would say that's a goal of our project, but that's a complicated thing to do because the blooms, they can vary a lot in toxicity. So so, sometimes the bloom looks really bad and it is really bad. And if it looks really bad, it's probably usually pretty bad. But to be able to in real time say that's a bloom that is probably dangerous and you should not go in is something that is a little bit more complicated. But, and this brings in our biophysical team, they're trying to sort of figure out, like, are there like visual cues about the blooms that are consistently associated with high toxicity levels?
Yeah.
If there are, then maybe we can develop a real-time, quick assessment system that would be able to inform people pretty quickly, like, yeah, that's dangerous, you don't go in there. And because one of the challenges right now is even if people were to go out and try to test for blooms, the assessments of toxicity that are done in the lab take a long time and conditions change rapidly. So if we can develop something that's sort of where we can know what the indicators of toxicity are from visual appearance and things like that, then we could have something that's a quick assessment, and that could possibly be integrated with the app. That's a little bit of a longer term.
That was where my first heart was, because I know when I was first starting this, when I learned not all harmful algal blooms are harmful, and that's like, how do you report this? How do you talk about this? And the biophysical team has really been looking at this, and there's a grad student who's been looking at how can we look at something and identify it, which long term, wouldn't it be amazing, picture this, where you can look at a plant and do a plant identification, have an app and say, is that good or is that bad?
And and so I think that's a goal, but it is a little bit of a longer term goal.
Well, then, speaking of longer term, if the project, I thought the end date was 2027, so are there plans in motion to get that extended so that, I mean, you'd hate to have this app start rolling and everybody's using it and then suddenly the funding runs out. So how is that, and I don't know how that part all works. So.
I'm looking at a lead.
Yeah, well, I think that whether or not we can extend the funding is that's a big question, particularly at this moment, because it is funding from the federal government. It's National Science Foundation funding. But there are other funding opportunities, and it is possible to extend the end date of the project and get what's called a no-cost extension. So I think, and I'm sort of hopeful that the data that we would need to develop something like that will be gathered by that time. And the development of the analysis that would go into figuring out some sort of system like what I described, that's something that could be done even after the end date of the project. So can't say for sure, but I'm hopeful.
Right. And the app, once we're collecting the data, because somebody will come back and have a budget point of it, but it should be free from that point on.
Yeah.
And also another reason why not wanting it to just be in the hands of one human versus having multiple entities who can access that data. So let's say we don't have somebody who's able to devote time on our team to continue that into 2032. But maybe Foxwolf Watershed will still be doing this, and WDNR could be doing this, trying to make this live past us and past whatever turnover happens in academia and grants, and trying to figure out how to do it as low cost as possible and long term.
Right. Thanks. Anyone else?
I'd like to quick backpedal onto your idea. Sorry, I can't see your tag.
Oh, you're
Vic.
good. I'm Vic.
Vic, your idea about comparing checking harmful algal blooms with checking the weather. You are not the first person to suggest that.
Thanks.
So I think maybe that's something that we should also look into, because having a campaign like check the weather and the bloom radar or something like that could promote healthier behaviors, and also goes hand in hand with promoting the sort of awareness that we're trying to go for.
Yeah. Just to add to that too, these things move around quite a bit with the wind.
Right.
So tracking like that is helpful.
Yeah, any avid boater is already checking the wind, right? So if it's next to my wind, I'll look at it.
Exactly.
So are these blooms found everywhere in the world, or just in Wisconsin, or how widespread is this?
Many places.
Yeah, it is a worldwide phenomenon, and certain conditions will generally lead to them, but yeah, they're a problem in freshwater systems worldwide.
Okay, so any data that you collect and anything you develop could be used quite widespread. Awesome. Alyssa?
I was just gonna say, I love the idea of the real-time updates on even just a picture of what's happening, instead of like a weather app. It makes me think of like Google or Apple Maps. Like, I'm driving home, there's an object on the road. Like, there's a detour ahead. Like, that's even that kind of data. I think that is super beneficial for those people going out, and maybe it is like reframing it as that, because the end goal of being able to test it for that toxicity is like, that's a great goal, but that's a really hard goal to get done by, what was it, 2027? Yeah. That's going to come quick because it's already July of 25. But yeah, I mean, I think framing it, at least what like, I think along the lines of like a Google or an Apple map type thing, or a radar thing, but I feel like the map version kind of gives it a little bit more of like what you can currently do with it. That's great. And then I was just wondering if we could pivot a little bit to like the traveling exhibit and like the education aspect on like how we're talking about. Also, just a caveat, I do work at Fox Wolf, but like I'm not the one on the project, so I hear minimal things, so my questions are wholehearted.
Yeah, so the exhibit, was that kind of specifically what you wanted to hear about?
That's one aspect, and
Sure.
like, I guess one thing we were talking about briefly earlier too was like what information and how do you get information to people that's kind of not accusatory, because that's a big thing. And I think from the urban side of it, you can take note of how like the Department of Public Works educates folks on how stormwater impacts the water, because grass clippings, leaves, they're doing all of those things to educate folks, and like the core messaging really is the storm drains lead to our waterways, and that's nitrogen and phosphorus. So it is really a holistic problem, and I think that's how, when I'm talking to folks, is it's not just the farmer, because that comes up a lot. We live in a city, and there's Appleton right there, and there's Green Bay right there, and these are really urbanized areas with a lot of cement, and a lot of runoff, and a lot of stuff going into our drains. So I think that kind of actualizes the holistic approach of the impact on our water. So that was a bit of a tangent, but like...
Yeah, kind of saying whose problems are HAVs? Everybody's problem. Like, yay, let's all cheer about it. And then what can we do about it? So I hear your point on that. I didn't have anything else.
Kind of what I hear you saying is like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but making sure that outreach and education is mindful of what you're talking about, like the fact that it's a problem that has many facets, and
it's my coin term. It's complicated.
Yeah. Well, so that's when we are like for the traveling exhibit. I'll just use that as an example. So that's something that we're hoping to roll out by like fall of next year, so fall 2026. And so it's currently in the early stages of development, and it will have to incorporate lots of different stuff from different parts of the project. And our historian on the project, Jim Feldman, is really taking the lead on that. And he's going to be meeting with Fox Wolf to talk. I think actually he's already met with our team. But really trying to, the point I'm making is trying to incorporate your perspective and like your insights into how we design such an exhibit. Because the idea is that it is something that can communicate effectively and reach all sorts of people, right? And not alienate people. And really tell the story of this watershed and HAVs in this watershed in like an effective way. So yeah, and actually one of the things we talked with folks at Fox Wolf about was you all helping to deploy this exhibit sometimes, because I think there was some excitement on your team about that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and even thinking about how we communicate things. Another one that we're designing right now is calling the map of joy. And so in the interviews, we're not just asking like, what do you think of harmful algal, but also, where's your favorite spot on the water? Why? Tell us a story, right? Then it's also connecting. Ideally, this will be something that'll be like a story map, and people can go on and can see pictures, and they'll have narratives in this traveling exhibit. It might be something that we're going to have people can type it in right there, because just thinking back to what you're talking about, like how we're messaging, and both like at what level, and are we being attentive to all different kinds of humans? If I'm just going up to something as like, oh, I'm hearing the gloom and doom of harmful algal. But wait a minute, why do we care? Let's go back to this water. This water is so important. And you can hear that in people's interviews, how passionate they are and they care about this water and they want to be in tune with this water. So we're trying to also balance and decided, let's make a map of joy. Let's talk about the beautiful things about the water. And when I'm reminded about how much I love this space, I am also reminded I want to do something. I'm a steward of this space. I have responsibility, whether I've just shown up today at the park and maybe what can I do and not just throw my garbage down. And maybe it's about what am I doing with my leaves? What am I doing with my grass clippings? All these, what am I giving my money to? What am I not? Just trying to tapping into presence through things that are also with people's hearts.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if this is really on top, but when you were talking about that, I had like an image in my head of, you know, like when EAA comes to town and everyone's like pinning all the local like coffee shops and stuff, right? Have like a map of the world and there's pins from where everyone's from. I just envision like a farmer's market booth with you guys there and a map, but of the lake system with pins of people's places of joy.
I love that.
And like that, sorry, that's just
I love that.
suggestion for
Well, I
you.
mean, if we're talking about the lake being this space of recreation and economics and community, if we are celebrating that in other spaces and other also, like, people love going to the farmer's market. And I say many people like going to the farmer's market, and they're there, and now I'm at this booth and I have this education component, but I'm also getting to express my connection to this space, and I think that would be infectious.
Fun fact, we also go to farmers markets as a board, so I think that would be something cool to collaborate on personally. We could even try and find some sort of
That'd be cool.
situation, maybe in future summers, where we have booths next to each other. I think it'd be really cool to
That'd be so
expand that
cool.
space.
Yeah. Awesome.
Speaking for the whole board, sorry. It's usually me at the farmer's market.
I was thinking the same thing, Vic. It would, we could even share our booth and invite them to be our guest for one of our,
Absolutely.
because that brings people to our booth, and then we get to talk about the fact that there is a sustainability board. I know you will be shocked. There are a few people in Oshkosh who actually watch and know that we do have one. But most people, when they walk by our booth, they go, "What's that?" And often they say, "Well, what do you mean by sustainability?" So clearly, we're not doing our job as effectively as we could be, but we haven't been able to figure out how to get it any better. So that's our comment. That's our onward goal forever, how to communicate with people. And you know it gets harder every week because there's some new something or other. I don't know, there was something that popped up on my iPad and I wanted to look at it, but when I hit it, it's like I had to have something else, and I don't even know what else I had to have to be able to see it, you know. So it's like, where did this come from? This isn't fair, you know. So, but I'm old, but I think everybody is running into that from different things. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, Alyssa, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, dear.
I do a lot of
please.
talking and like educating all the way from like K through 12 to adults and whatever with my work. So I know it's great to have like handouts and flyers and farmers market, but like you can't be there all the time. And with like I guess the traveling exhibit, can you go a little bit more into detail if you have any on like what your thoughts? One thing that I found successful that draws people in is always something that's like an activity, an engagement, something like that. Like even if I'm at the farmer's market for my job, it's having, you know, raindrop plinko or spin the wheel or something that's engaging and like hands-on, because I feel like when people get involved, it sticks a little bit more and it becomes more meaningful.
Yeah, so I can't speak to exactly what is in the works there, because that's so you actually know Jim Feldman, so right, so he's in charge of that. So actually, I think he would love, and I mean this sincerely, he would probably love to hear your thoughts and ideas on that, because I think they are planning on some active engagement as part of it, and also I think an emerging plan is to make it very portable, with the idea that that's how you can take it to lots of different kinds of spaces and reach lots of different people. But I think he really is looking for input from folks like yourself who engage with the public a lot and kind of would have a good sense of what what is going to be effective?
I can speak to this a little bit. So with the community outreach team, one of the things that we often do is set up a table with microscopes with live algae specimens on the slides so that kids and parents can come and look at that and learn about it and actually see it under the microscope. So that's probably something that we would like to incorporate into that.
Do they go, ooh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, green water just doesn't appeal to me. I don't know why anybody would
The
consider getting in
cyanobacteria
it.
are actually really cool looking when you look at them. And I say this, I'm not a microscope person, but I really like looking at them through the microscope.
Through the
They're
microscope.
cool.
But
Yeah.
you wouldn't jump into that water, though.
No, but I like looking at them.
It looks so much better than it feels. Yeah. Paul?
I have one more. Looking at your last question, and this is probably beyond the scope of what you're doing right now, but for the future, there's no rapid tests for any different problems, as you know, flu, COVID, in the clinics, strep, whatever. And you said sometimes it's hard to tell the toxicity of a particular bloom. Maybe someday you'll have a industrious biochemist that will come up with some sort of rapid test that's specific and sensitive enough to let you know, go in the water or not, even though it looks crummy, it's still okay. Just, someday you might see somebody that, hey, you want to work on and it could be $1 million idea for you know.
We'll be like, remember when Paul said?
Be sure and
Fortunately, I
look
don't
those
have the
in.
expertise or the ability or the equipment to do it, but
That would be really cool.
yeah.
That's where we look to our chemist and our engineer and our biologist. Yeah.
Yep.
But that would be cool.
Desmond?
So, yeah, pivoting a little bit here, the idea about contacting the Rotary Club got me thinking OECD from the economic perspective. If there are any people with contacts, that would be a wonderful opportunity for us.
Can you
to partner
define
with them.
OECD? The Office
The
of
Oshkosh Economic Development
Okay.
Committee.
Go Oshkosh, basically.
Go on, yep, go ahead, EDC.
One other thing that I did notice, and you kind of alluded to this, but when you're creating materials or anything that's going to be spoken or written, because you are academics, it's really hard, I know sometimes, to dumb it down a little bit. And, I mean, we all understood what you were saying, don't get me wrong, but you wouldn't say cyanotoxin, which I don't even know if I said it right, but you would say blue-green algae, but there were some other terms that you used, so you need to have like a third grader read what you wrote and see what their questions are when you're just throwing that out there.
No, that's very astute. At that conference that Heidi was talking about, that was one of the speakers talked about, what did she say?
4 grades below. The writing, like if you were a 12th grader, should be written for an 8th grader, which ironically you had just said the same thing. And on one hand, we were like, that makes a lot of sense. Here, I have this PhD. And yet this chemist was talking, he goes, well, this is like high school chemistry. And I could not, the words he was talking about, I was like, I think I need, depending on the topic, I think I need to go down back to like 5th grade on this conversation. But to your point, you're right. We get in, even when I forget what acronym I use. Oh, IRB. How quickly we use our jargon in our spaces, and then when we're talking to other humans, they're looking at you like, what? Because in our world, that's the reality. And remembering that if we're trying to connect with all types of humans, we need to write and present in a way that's actually meant for all types of humans to engage in the conversation.
And I think that's where images help better. I
Yeah.
mean, they really put it out there because everyone knows if you're familiar with the waters around here, you know what it looks like. And, the Mr. Yuck stickers. I mean, things like that. Those are.
I've never seen that sticker.
You've never
The
seen
Mr. Yuck?
You don't know about Mr. Yuck?
No.
My dad.
That's from the 80s.
I think there were these stickers, and you would
I'm
put
from
them
Ohio.
on things in your house on cleaning products, so your
Oh,
children
sure.
would
Yeah.
know to stay away.
Oh.
So that's how people would know that it was.
Instead of
Yeah,
this
so
skull
stay
across
away from it.
bones.
But I mean, have you
remember
partnered
school.
with I know you're talking about the farmers markets, general public, and beaches, but fishing tournaments and those kinds of groups. These people are very conservation minded because they use it for their recreation, not just for boating, but for fishing. They want to eat the fish. So if you partner, there are fishing tournaments all over the place.
Okay.
Going to those and bringing your exhibit there, that's pretty much your target audience.
That'd be, that'd be good. I think your coworkers specifically mentioned fishing tournaments as like a place for the exhibit to
Yeah,
go.
I would also note that I think it's like, oh man, this is a couple of years ago. If your fishing tournament's more than 25 boats and so much prize that's registered through DNR, and you can see all of those happening. You can filter it by water body as well. So that's should be available. Was a couple of years ago to just look that up on the internet.
Oh, cool.
With contact information. There's usually a phone number and email associated with the person in charge. So even if it's, can I come talk at your rules meeting for 5 minutes? We did that with aquatic invasive species work.
Cool. And if you have an exhibit that you use, say, only on weekends, partner with libraries in the watershed and ask if you can put it up there during the week, because people go to libraries, they read stuff.
Yeah.
You know, well, some people do.
We've communicated a little bit with the public museum about potentially.
Oh, yeah, they'd be good too, yeah. Yeah. Okay, anything else anybody has that you'd like to share? Do I see a hand up over there?
Sorry,
You're just,
I thought one.
okay, that's okay. Okay, then, well, did we solve all your problems for you? Is this taken care of now?
Everything's harmful algal blooms solved. Yes, no.
On to the next one.
No, but seriously, thank you very much for your time and attention and input.
And the HAB interviews at, was that UW?
UWOSH, uwash.edu.
Okay.
We
wanted to get that
are
out there again to
UWO
people.
official now.
Awesome.
Oh, look how we have our own email.
So any of us or anyone in our viewing audience
Yes.
could send information to you or thoughts they
Absolutely.
have of any kind. It doesn't have to be for an interview.
Correct. You can send questions there. We also, when somebody reaches out and expresses, maybe I would like to have an interview, right? We send information and links, but you can also share that information and links with other people. There's a lot of snowball sampling of, someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. But also, even if you emailed there and you had another thought, we're like, you know what, you need to talk over here to Amelia, we get you connected directly, so.
Super.
Please email us. Anyone watching, email us.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This was really informative.
I think we should make a Facebook post as well,
I
linking
think so,
people
too.
to their website.
Oh, that's a great
I like
idea.
it. I like where we're going. This
Will you
is
be writing-
excellent.
will you
If
be
you
writing
need us
that
or
up
like
there?
verbiage or anything, just let us know.
I've got your website up, but Emma
Okay.
will send it to you.
Thank you.
Great.
Not that we have like a huge following or anything, but like growing. Manage expectations here.
You are welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting if you'd like. We're a lot of fun, but we do get a little boring sometimes, just to warn you. Or if you have other things you need to do, well, that's fine too. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know, I'll do a genie to get magic sticks.
Oh, I should also mention that this is the group that got the Sustainability Award from us a couple of years ago, right?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes. And look how far you have come. Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, let's go on to the agenda then. We are to composting and bulk waste discussion. Gee, without Lisa here, I don't know if we can even do this, but does anybody have anything on that, Emma?
I didn't get anything. I know we talked about it for a while last meeting. I know there was conversations about, diving into researching what other communities were doing, possibly having it as a topic at a future summer farmers market. I just wanted to keep it on here in case someone had any updates. We can push it to next month when Lisa and Jake are back too. I'm fine with whatever, but if anybody has any material that they want to get to me, please send it at any time and we can discuss it.
Okay. That takes us to the farmer's market. The next one is,
August 9th, and then I did jot down who responded that they could potentially do that date. I had Paul, Jake, Lisa, and maybe Alyssa. So I know it's like a month out now, but
Well, it doesn't hurt to plan ahead, especially if we want to have some kind of a theme like we've discussed from time to time. I do have to definitely thank Paul, who I think did a lot of the work, Jaden and Jake for the last farmer's market. I stopped in, I was at another booth, but I did stop in and it was great. So I don't know, one thing I thought of, and I don't think I saw it there, because I probably forgot to mention it ever, but we should really have a tally sheet that we can see how many engagements we had with people. Because if we don't do that, we don't know if it's being effective or not. If we're just sitting there looking cute when everybody's walking by, I'm not sure that has the same effect as if we're actually having discussions with them about the fact that things need to be more sustainable.
I'll throw something in the bin so that we just have an ongoing
Oh,
assignment
great.
then.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Great idea, yeah.
I won't be available for the 9th. Sorry.
Okay.
Me either. I have to work.
Sorry.
And you're not either, Alyssa?
No, I have
Plans
to work.
changing.
Okay.
Who does that leave then for the night?
That
Jake
left.
and Lisa, the two not here.
And, I can probably also make that date.
Okay.
You can put me down as 10.
And we can touch base before, a week or so before, because somebody does have to be responsible for picking up the supplies and returning them.
Right. And the weights to hold down the shelter, very important. I hadn't thought of that ahead of time, and I thought, well, maybe they'll have them here. They didn't, so I had to get creative, but I found stuff in my garage. Ropes to hold down the corners of the shelter, because it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Oh, yes, it's required by the,
Okay.
I thought we didn't ever end up purchasing them then, did we? We don't have weight bags in there.
I guess not, no.
Well,
Okay.
I
I
was very sustainable.
Did we use,
We were sharing them with someone else. I had to drop them off at someone's house.
okay.
Okay.
That can still be arranged if we needed to.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that by then too.
Yeah.
We can also use gallon milk bottles.
Gallon water jugs, yeah.
Yeah, well,
need
yeah.
What?
You put water in them, but they came with milk.
Sure.
We were both right.
Can I ask what the third date we have for this year is?
Yep, October 11th, and I have UVic, and then I had Jake, and maybe Alyssa again for that date.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I can still be there.
Yeah, I'll be out of the country. Or I shouldn't say that on TV.
Okay. Well, and that one, and we also can invite Amy to join us now that she's our newest member. Did we forget to tell you? The person who's the newest on the board is usually the one who does all the work.
I set it all up, tear it all down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we got that one solved.
Pop-ups, no problem.
Okay, then moving, if there's nothing else on farmer's market, we'll move on to sustainability-related plans, which is we have nothing for that unless somebody has something for that, if that makes sense.
I have some updates.
Awesome.
The sustainability plan, I think we now have received all of the draft chapters, so we are looking at them internally, but expect in the next couple of weeks I'll send out an email with the draft plan that will look for any comments that you all may have on it. I think they're looking to turn that around pretty quickly then, and we're hoping for like a presentation to council at the latest sometime in September. So that's the update on that. And then the same thing for the comprehensive energy plan. I think last month I reported that he had came and presented to department like heads and managers, just letting them know where he was at. I think has all of the data that he needs now, but he's just working on the draft plan. So it'll be a very similar process. I think once that draft plan is complete, he'll do a presentation to council, because I think with that grant funding, it needs to be wrapped up, I think, sooner than later. I think by the end of summer.
Is it end of summer or end of year?
I think it's summer. There was some confusion around those dates, so I
Yeah.
think we're trying to push that along.
Well, we might as well get her done. I am very anxious to see the sustainability plan and what the what they've come up with. I think it's really important that after we get to see it, that we have another round of, the possibility of another round of discussion. I have asked somebody else who's seen parts of the plan, and I believe there are some things that I personally think should be in there that may not be represented. So I think that we all need to take a look at not just what's there, but what isn't there when we have the chance to see it.
Yeah, I think all of that's built into the schedule, so I would just please keep monitoring your emails. I will try to share as much as I can when I have those updates for you. But yeah, we just got this like last week. So,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I heard it needed a little bit of review. Okay, well, thanks. Is there anything else along those lines that anyone else has? No? Okay. Agenda items for future meeting. We will obviously be talking about Summers Farmers Market again. The municipal code, we're probably a couple of weeks out yet before they have anything to share on that, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure when that'll be going to council, but I will provide an update once I have some.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to remember, we haven't had a sustainability meeting after the Plan Commission went over it, have we? It was very interesting. The Plan Commission I didn't feel they were having adequate discussion initially. So I said, well, we discussed this last night at the Sustainability Board, and I just want you to know that this is the point in the minutes where I think it should say lively discussion ensued. And we went on for quite a while after that because it did get people analyzing what we had said. They did ask what we had thought, and the fact that we had people that were very up on some of these issues and were able to share them. So that was really helpful. And the person, I think I had told you, well, there's a developer on the Plan Commission who will be able to weigh in on this. And he's like, wait, when I'm on the Plan Commission, I don't want to be known as a developer, you know. But did also have some serious input. So it was, if anything, I believe it came out a smidge stricter than we had recommended, which was
interesting.
We did bend a little bit, didn't we?
well, and it all goes to council anyway. I mean, council's going to be the one who decides on what they end up with. Right. But they did have some strong recommendations for the fact that the phosphorus was tied to the solid waste. You know, there's a ratio there. And because of that, once everyone understood that, then it became a lot more serious, as in, okay, well then this doesn't make any sense. We can't do that. We need to do this. So if you get a chance, I know that we're a lot of fun. The Plan Commission's even more fun. And you might want to go on and watch that part of the discussion because it was good for us too. So anyway, yes, that's why that. Do we want to address something about resiliency at some point in the future? You all heard about what's happening in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. And why, one of the theories of why it was as bad as it was is that they weren't given proper warning because they didn't have proper notifications in place. There's no reason that we're immune here. You know, we could have floods. I live like right on the lake. It doesn't have to come up very high for, you know. We could have fires here. You know, I've been evacuated in California from a fast-moving wildfire. It can happen. And because we think we don't have anything here but tornadoes, I still am not sure that anyone in the city or the county has any kind of really resiliency plan, and it should be written into zoning codes at some point too, you know, because you need to start planning for the future. Have we heard that before? Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm just thinking, if not us, who's going to bring this up? But I don't want to be the only one to do it. So at some point, I would like your feedback on whether we should take that up or not, and how we would go about researching it and providing information. Vic?
I guess I would ask if that would be workshop worthy, in which we could all share thoughts and ideas and maybe collaborate a little bit more before presenting something formally as a board.
Oh, absolutely,
That would be
yeah.
my suggestion to the group.
Okay, so potentially have a resiliency workshop.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I could also take off my city hat and put on my university hat. We, as part of our climate action and resilience plan, incorporated resilience into that, and we used the Nature Conservancy's community resilience assessment. We also partnered with public admin and criminal justice on campus, who looked at community resilience across 4 different counties in the state of Wisconsin, because so much of this is tethered to safety, right? And for certain populations within your community are more likely to be impacted
Negatively.
Adversely when there's a flood, when the power goes out, right? Those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I think also sustainability is a great group to address this topic.
So we wouldn't necessarily be starting at the starting gate either. We may be a little down the road with some other information. And that's great. I didn't even think of the university, what they would be doing. I should have. I should know by now, shouldn't I? Okay, well, we'll put resiliency workshop down for future, depending on what other things we have and how late I'm really glad we don't have a workshop tonight, aren't you all? So with that, if there's nothing else, our next meeting will be on Monday, August 4th. Oh, Alyssa?
I would like to have the rain barrel credit on the agenda for next time, please.
Ah, okay, rain barrel credits.
As in, we should all read what currently exists before the meeting?
Well, it's like 3 or 4 pages.
It would be what Emma would send out with our agenda,
Right.
so we would know what.
Send a link.
Just
And we
you.
did have information on it out at the farmer's market, I noticed, right? But you saw the dilemma there, right? I mean, it is not an easy form.
Yeah.
Just put your name on here and check a box. No, that's not gonna work. No. Okay, is there anything else for future agendas? Okay. Well, then, our next meeting is still gonna be on Monday, August 4th. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thanks.